The silver clatter of forks against porcelain suddenly stilled. I sat stiffly in my chair, the polished mahogany of the restaurant table reflecting the strained smiles of my husband's family. My own mother, Eleanor, sat to my right, a practiced look of mild concern on her face. The evening had been a masterclass in subtle jabs and backhanded compliments. When the waiter finally placed the black leather check presenter squarely in the center of the table, a collective, subtle shift occurred. All eyes flickered toward me. My mother leaned in, her expensive perfume enveloping me. Her whisper, meant to be private, cut through the quiet room. "Don't embarrass yourself again, Natalie. You can't afford this." A light, mocking ripple of laughter traveled around the table from my in-laws. My husband, Daniel, looked away, ashamed of me. Instead of shrinking, a strange calm settled over me. I reached out, my movements smooth and deliberate, and pulled the check toward me. I opened it, scanned the total, and took the pen, and I signed my name with a steady hand. The car ride home was a cold, silent tomb. The moment Daniel pulled our sedan into the garage, the dam broke. "What the hell was that, Natalie?" he snapped, turning off the engine but making no move to get out. "That little stunt? You made me look like a beggar in front of my entire family." I unclipped my seatbelt, the click unnaturally loud. "I paid for the dinner, Daniel, with my own money. No one looked like a beggar." He let out a harsh, disbelieving laugh. "Your own money? What money? The loose change from your little accounting side gig? Don't make me laugh." He shoved his door open and stormed into the house, leaving me alone in the dark car. I didn't follow. I stared at my reflection in the passenger window. The woman looking back at me wasn't crying. Her eyes, shadowed in the glass, held a spark I hadn't seen in years. It wasn't anger, it was resolve. That spark had been a long time coming. My whole life, I'd lived in the shadow of my younger sister, Chloe. To our mother, Eleanor, Chloe was perfection. Married to a successful real estate agent, her life a curated collection of designer handbags and flawless vacation photos. I was the disappointment. I'd married Daniel young for love and dropped out of my graduate accounting program to support his career. To Eleanor, I had never lived up to my potential, a phrase she wielded like a weapon. Chloe's choices were celebrated, mine were tolerated. The favoritism was a constant, low hum in the background of our family. Just yesterday, a voice message from Eleanor had echoed in my ears. "Chloe's having a little gathering this weekend. Just try not to humiliate me again, Natalie." The memory was a fresh sting. Her warning referred to the incident, the original embarrassment. 5 years ago, at a family brunch celebrating Chloe's engagement, my card had been declined. The server had stood there awkwardly while I fumbled for another. The reason? Daniel had drained our joint account to put a deposit on a jet ski with his friends, forgetting to tell me. The heat of everyone's stares had burned me. Eleanor had sighed dramatically, handing over her platinum card. "Really, Natalie," she'd sneered, just loud enough for the table to hear. "You always pick the wrong men." The shame had been a physical weight. Later that night, as I stewed, a ping from my phone had broken the silence. It was a calendar reminder for the next day, meeting with investor, business loan, a tiny secret lifeline. That lifeline was my hidden hustle. For the past 18 months, while managing our household, I had been quietly building something of my own. I ran a small bookkeeping service from our home office, handling the finances for a few local small businesses, a florist, a coffee shop. It was modest, but it was mine. The profit was steady, and I'd saved every spare penny. The investor meeting was my shot at turning my side gig into a real firm. I walked into the coffee shop, my portfolio tucked under my arm, my heart pounding. The man waiting for me stood up with a warm smile. My breath caught. It was Mr. Sterling, my favorite accounting professor from college. The one who'd told me I was the most promising student he'd had in a decade. He remembered me, and he believed in my plan. Mr. Sterling didn't just remember me, he was impressed. "Your business model is solid, Natalie," he said, stirring his latte. "The market for supporting local small businesses is ripe. I'd like to offer you a partnership in my new consulting firm. My dream, handed to me on a silver platter. There was one condition. I need you to bring in your first major client on your own," he explained. "It proves your capability and builds your confidence. Land one significant account, and the partnership is yours." It was my golden ticket to true independence, to a future where my card would never be declined again. That night, I floated on air. When I tentatively told Daniel about the offer, his response was a gut punch. He laughed. You? Running a firm? Be realistic, Natalie. Stick to your little hobby. His dismissal was a bucket of cold water, but it didn't extinguish the fire. A few days later, the next test arrived. An email from Eleanor. The subject line, Chloe's birthday dinner. It was to be held at the Gilded Vine, one of the most upscale restaurants in the city. The email was a masterpiece of condescension. Don't worry, sweetheart, Eleanor had written. I'll handle the check this time. We know things are tight. The implication was clear. It was another setup, another opportunity for me to be the charity case. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. The old Natalie would have made an excuse. The new Natalie typed a simple, confident reply. I'll be there. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. I had 2 months until the dinner, and I used every second. I worked tirelessly, my focus razor-sharp. I reached out to every contact I had. I spent late nights crafting proposals. My break came from an unexpected place. A local construction company, Apex Builders, was struggling with their payroll and tax management. The owner, a no-nonsense woman named Brenda, was skeptical of big firms. She liked my local, personal approach. After 3 meetings and a detailed plan, I won her over. The victory wasn't glamorous, but it was huge. The moment the signed contract landed in my inbox, I let out a shaky breath. The retainer fee was a staggering $50,000. It was more money than I had ever earned on my own. With the contract secured, a subtle power shift began. I went to a proper bank and opened a business account in my name only. Natalie Thorne Consulting was real. I started carrying myself differently. I stood straighter. I invested in a few sharp, professional blazers. I spoke with more authority. The change was internal, but it started to show on the outside. Daniel noticed. The dismissive comments stopped, replaced by a watchful, suspicious silence. He'd watch me type away on my laptop late at night. His eyes narrowed. I was careful, password protecting everything. Or so I thought. One night, exhausted from a long day of number crunching, I fell into a deep sleep. I didn't hear the creak of the floorboards as Daniel slipped into my office and opened my laptop. The betrayal came at dawn. My phone buzzed violently on my nightstand. It was my mother. Natalie, what is this foolishness? She hissed, her voice trembling with rage. Daniel sent me everything. Your so-called business? That man is preying on you. Mr. Sterling is just using you for your money. I sat bolt upright, my heart hammering against my ribs. Daniel had not only found my business documents, he had emailed them to my mother, framing it as a concerned intervention. He was standing in the doorway, a mask of fake worry on his face. I had to, Natalie. You're being manipulated, he said. I ended the call with my mother, my hand shaking. Before I could even process his treachery, my phone buzzed again. The screen flashed. Mr. Sterling. Natalie, I've just had a very concerning call from your husband, Mr. Sterling said, his tone grave. He's raised some questions about your stability and suggested you're being coerced. Given the circumstances, we have to pause the partnership. Indefinitely. I'm sorry. The line went dead. My dream, so close, had been shattered. The room spun. I looked at Daniel, who was now pretending to look sad. I was just trying to protect you, he mumbled, unable to meet my eyes. Protect me? He had sabotaged me. The last thread of our marriage snapped in that moment. Without a word, I walked to our bedroom, pulled my old suitcase from the closet, and began to pack. I moved into a small, sunlit studio apartment near the downtown core. It was cramped, but it was mine. The silence was a blessing. I threw myself into my work with a ferocity I didn't know I possessed. I wasn't trying for a partnership anymore. I was just trying to survive. I took on any client I could find, a new hair salon, a boutique bakery, a freelance graphic designer. My reputation for being thorough, reliable, and affordable began to spread through word of mouth. The work was relentless, but with every satisfied client, a piece of my confidence returned. I was building something from the ground up, with no one to sabotage it. Weeks turned into a month. Then my phone rang. It was Mr. Sterling. His voice was different. Natalie, he said, are you free to talk about something bigger? We met at a quiet park bench. Mr. Sterling looked chastened. I owe you an apology, Natalie, he began. I was wrong to doubt you. Your work is the talk of the local business community. Brenda from Apex Builders won't stop singing your praises. He explained that my success in building my own robust client list from scratch was more impressive than landing one big client. It showed resilience and real business acumen. The partnership is back on the table, he said. In fact, I want you to head our new regional office. My heart soared. Then he gave me the address. I froze. The office was in the prestigious Pinnacle Tower. The same building where Daniel, just yesterday, had told me he had a final round job interview next week. As I was settling into my new office and the power that came with it, the past reached out. Another email from Eleanor. The subject, Family Reconciliation Dinner. She wrote that we needed to celebrate Chloe's pregnancy, and she added, to finally talk about your little accounting thing. The tone was still condescending, an obvious attempt to reel me back in and assess the damage Daniel had caused. She had chosen the venue, the Gilded Vine. Again, the scene of the upcoming humiliation. But I was not the same woman. I typed my reply, my fingers steady. I'd be happy to come, I wrote, and I insist on handling the check this time. I could almost feel her surprise through the screen. The night of the dinner, I took my time preparing. I didn't wear one of my old safe dresses. I wore a sleek, navy blue designer dress I'd bought with my own money. I styled my hair differently. I looked in the mirror and saw a managing director, not a disappointment. In my purse, next to my wallet, was a crisp business card. My new title was engraved beneath my name, Natalie Thorne, Managing Director. A small, satisfying secret. I knew something else no one at that table did. My firm now handled the entire payroll and accounts for the Gilded Vine. I was, in a very real sense, their boss. I walked out the door, ready for the performance to begin. The dinner began just as I expected. Eleanor held court, dominating the conversation with stories of Chloe's perfect pregnancy, her husband's latest real estate coup. Daniel was there, laughing a little too loudly at Eleanor's jokes, trying to ingratiate himself. I was largely ignored, which suited me perfectly. I sipped my water and observed them all. When the desserts were cleared, the waiter approached and placed the black leather check presenter in the center of the table with a quiet thud. The conversation hiccuped. Eleanor gave a theatrical sigh and reached for her purse. "Don't worry, dear," she said to me, her smile all sharp edges. "I've got it this time." But my hand was already there, my fingers closing around the leather folder before she could touch it. Eleanor's smile tightened. She leaned in close, her voice a venomous whisper meant just for me. But the table had gone quiet enough to hear. "Don't embarrass yourself again, Natalie." Her eyes were hard, expecting me to crumble. I held her gaze. My hand didn't shake. I didn't flinch. I simply opened the check presenter, picked up the pen, and signed my name with the same steady hand I'd used months before. But this time, I did something different. I reached into my purse, pulled out my business card, and placed it neatly on top of the signed check, facing the waiter. The young man's eyes dropped to the card. He stiffened, his professional demeanor shifting to one of recognition and respect. "Oh," he said, his voice clear in the silent room. "Miss Thorne, I didn't realize this was your restaurant's account." A wave of confusion swept the table. Chloe dropped her dessert fork with a clatter. Daniel's face went pale. Eleanor stared, uncomprehending. "What is he talking about?" She sputtered. "What account?" I kept my voice calm and level, a contrast to her sputtering fury. "My firm," I explained, "Thorne and Sterling Consulting, recently took over all financial management for the Gilded Vine. We handle their payroll, their payables, everything. This dinner will be processed through our corporate account." I was not just a customer, I was a vendor, a partner. The family stared, mouths agape. Before anyone could form another question, the restaurant manager, a sharp-dressed man named Mr. Evans, appeared at my side. "Good evening, Miss Thorne," he said warmly. "A pleasure to see you. Would you like the monthly statement sent to your main office as usual?" The public confirmation was absolute. The entire table was frozen in a perfect tableau of shock. Eleanor's friends, who had been snickering before, were now looking at her with a new, critical expression. Daniel tried to laugh it off, a strained, hollow sound. "Well, this is a surprise," he said, but no one joined him. The manager's deferential tone had sealed the truth. I looked at my mother, whose face was a thundercloud of humiliation and dawning understanding. I didn't smirk. I didn't gloat, I simply said, my words meant for her alone. I pay the bills here now, mother. The power in that statement was immense. Eleanor, for the first time in her life, had nothing to say. She excused herself from the table and practically fled toward the restroom. I gave her a moment before I followed. I found her standing by the ornate lobby fountain, her back to me, her shoulders rigid. She whirled around, her eyes blazing. "How dare you?" she hissed, her voice low and trembling. "How dare you make me look small in front of everyone, to humiliate me like that?" For years, that tone would have cowed me. Now it just sounded pathetic. I finally said the words I should have said a decade ago. "I didn't make you look small, Mom. You did that. You did that every single time you chose to make me feel small to make yourself feel bigger." The truth of it hung in the air between us. She had no retort, no clever, cutting remark, just a stunned, open-mouthed silence. I turned and walked away, leaving her there by the water. Daniel was waiting for me by the valet stand, his hands shoved in his pockets. "Natalie, just calm down, okay?" he started, his tone placating. "Let's not ruin things. This is all a big misunderstanding. We can work this out." He still thought this was a temporary storm he could wait out. He didn't understand that the foundation of our life together had already washed away. I reached into my purse and pulled out a sealed, legal-sized envelope. I handed it to him. "What's this?" he asked, confused. "It's not a misunderstanding, Daniel," I said, my voice steady. "It's a divorce." His face crumpled as he looked down at the papers. I met his eyes. I've been embarrassed enough for one lifetime. In the weeks that followed, my life transformed. The story of that dinner at the Gilded Vine became a quiet legend in local business circles. It wasn't told as a story of family drama, but as a story of my professionalism and quiet power. New client inquiries flooded in, not just small businesses, but mid-sized companies who wanted the woman who had coolly signed for a dinner she technically owned. My firm's reputation was cemented. I was no longer Natalie, the disappointment. I was Natalie Thorne, a force to be reckoned with. My phone buzzed with another call from Mr. Sterling. "The board is impressed," he said, a smile in his voice. "How does the title senior partner sound to you?" As I rose, Eleanor fell. Her social circle, now fully aware of her cruelty, began to quietly distance themselves. The whispers about that dinner painted her as the villain. The invitations to luncheons and gallery openings slowed to a trickle. The most surprising development was a phone call from my sister, Chloe. Her voice was soft, hesitant. "Natalie, I'm so sorry," she said, "for everything. Mom, she always pitted us against each other. I was so busy enjoying being the favorite, I never saw how she used me to hurt you." It was a long overdue acknowledgement. I forgave her, but I also set a firm boundary. Our relationship would be rebuilt on our terms, not our mother's. Months later, my phone rang again. It was Eleanor. Her voice was different, subdued, older. She told me she was selling the family house and moving into an assisted living community. "The place is lovely," she said, but her tone was weary. Then she paused. "I just wanted to say, I'm proud of you." The words I had craved my entire life landed with a dull thud. They were too late. "Thank you, Mother," I said, my voice even. I didn't offer to help her move. I didn't promise to visit all the time. I simply thanked her. There was another pause, and she added, so softly I almost missed it, "You really did grow stronger than I ever expected." Tonight, I sit at a corner table at the Gilded Vine, alone. I'm reviewing quarterly reports, a glass of excellent wine at my elbow. The soft lighting glints off the silverware. The meal was perfect. As I finish, the same waiter from months ago approaches. He doesn't bring a check presenter. He simply brings the digital payment terminal, a sign of my permanent status. I smile, tap my personal card, a black one with no limit, and sign the screen with a flourish. I tuck my pen back into my purse. There is no whisper hanging in the air, no anxious glances. Just the quiet, unshakable power of a woman who has built her own kingdom. Turns out, the best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's not needing to anymore.